Hello, I'm Robbie Miller. I'm a second year history and politics student at Glasgow. I have been a member of the board of management of the Glasgow University Union for the past year as a present student member. I've previously been on the Daft Friday committee and the freshers team, and this year I am running for the position of Honorary Secretary of the GUU.
Okay, Robbie, thanks for talking with us. Let's start with something you admit right at the beginning of your manifesto. You've decided to resign halfway through your current two-year board position to run for Honorary Secretary. Why is this?
Because I feel I can do more as Honorary Secretary. I've had the year on board. I think I've got what it takes to go on and be Honorary Secretary and take the union through into its next phase.
But would you say that, for some people who might see this perhaps as you kind of leapfrogging, a position, that you'd rather run for a higher position and finish the role you ran last year? What would you say to that kind of criticism?
I'd say that I've served the years at PSM. I have the experience of being on the board. I've seen what we've been through the past year. I've been part of the integral decisions of the integral decisions the past year, and I know what's coming next, where the union needs to go forward from here.
Mm-hmm. But what if some people were to say perhaps that you haven't done your bit? You ran for a two-year role last year, you got it very generously from the electorate, and now you're thinking, well, no, that's not good enough for me. I want to do something that's more prestigious, perhaps.
Well, although I've only been on a PSM for a year, I definitely haven't been much and I've certainly rolled my shirt sleeves up and put everything I can into the union for its members, basically.
But you don't want another year of PSM?
Well, I don't. It's not so much I don't want another year of PSMing. It's that I feel that I could do more as Honorary Secretary.
Okay, and you wouldn't consider doing it the next year perhaps when you finished your role as PSM?
Not necessarily. I think that I'm the person for the job next year. Otherwise, I wouldn't have stepped up.
Okay. So, Robbie, the reason I ask this question specifically is because it's pretty common knowledge that you're a proud member of the Freemasons, which a lot of people have associations, with secrecy, gender discrimination, for instance. Do you see your membership within such an organisation as potentially damaging to the GU's reputation, considering its desire for the last few years to try and shake off its kind of reputation as an old boys club, as traditionalist? Not
necessarily. I stand on a record in office. At no point, in fact, throughout the year, I've been committed to working to make the union a more open place for all groups. I stood at Hustings last year and said the same thing, and I'm still committed to it.
Okay, but specifically, perhaps let's talk about women as a subject. I know that Freemasons obviously have a long history of not allowing women into their organisation. Do you think that this association with sexism would tarnish your reputation as Honorary Secretary of the GUU?
I don't think the slightest.
Okay, so do you support not allowing women into Freemasons?
It's not a decision that I have to make.
But surely by being a member of it, you're supporting its views, at least tacitly.
No, I'm committed to the principles of the institution.
But not at it.
No.
But you could, isn't that a bit like joining the BNP and saying I'm not racist?
No.
It has connotations that people might associate with it.
Not in the slightest.
You don't think so at all? So, how can, I suppose is what I'm trying to get at, is how can the GUU have somebody on its board who many people would see as belonging to something, quite kind of traditional, quite patriarchal, when it's making such, great strides to move forwards in its outlook, to become more inclusive, to modernise itself, essentially, to remove itself from its sexist past? Because
I've been part of the board of management for the past year. I stood in a platform last year of better access to gender neutral toilets. So not just to respect and say okay, that's not maybe not necessarily women, but it's people of what many would consider the gender minority. Like I've stood committed. At no point at no point at any time in my association with the union have I been discriminatory towards women or any other group.
So just before we move on, what would you say to anyone who did see this as a problem? You know, you said there's a Freemason running the union.
Judge me in my time in office.
Okay. So, no, I know that you've had quite a lot of trouble getting a proposal and a seconder for your campaign. How do you feel about this? You know, do you feel like you're not getting much support from the GUU board?
No, I wouldn't say that. The way it's generally run has been that many people within, when two members run for the same position, two members of the board run for the same position, they don't want to pick a side.
But the current president, Rory Slater, has backed your competitor, Blair, as a seconder. So don't you see that as perhaps a betrayal of interests?
Well, that's his choice. I respect his decision.
Okay, but do you feel perhaps that, you know, if elected, you'd find it difficult to work with people who haven't shown you any sort of support in your campaign?
Not in the slightest, because at the end of the day, the board of management works as a team for the members of the union.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, let's move on to your manifesto. You base a number of points on generating more revenue for the union, for making it more profitable, for, you know, so that you can run more things in the future. One point that jumps out is your idea to allow more private functions at the GUU to bring in some extra cash. Do you feel like this would perhaps undermine, you know, the union's image as purely an institution for students?
I don't think in the slightest. The times that we're proposing more private functions into the union are at times where student demand is low, right? Ultimately the union needs to do, as any institution needs to do, is source more funding to invest in the things that it already does, right? Now, we can do one of two things, right? Because we've got to accept at one point, right, that there's a limit to the amount we can, the amount of revenue that we can draw from students, given the situation of student funding, right? We either try to increase revenue by increasing members, which we are already committed to doing, and we have done. We reached 4,500 members last month. It's going to be, which is a slow process, or we'll look for funding through private functions to make sure the union is busy even when student demand is low. So we've got the revenue in to ensure financial stability and also to invest in services to ensure that the student, because that the focus of it is the student, so that the student members get more out of our services.
So, for instance, if you had, you know, quite a lucrative private function, you know, taking up some rooms within the GUU, and that meant that certain societies, you know, might not be able to use the GUU for you know, a meeting, for instance, due to lack of space. Do you see this as kind of a problem of prioritisation? You know, that you're trying to get money from one area, while at the same time almost, you know, making it difficult for society to use the union.
I can understand why it might be considered like a matter of prioritisation, but the point is that the private functions come in when societies don't need it at times of the year where they're not likely, or they're not there. For example, over the summer, where most of the student population are not resident in Glasgow, most of the student societies have stopped for the summer. But if it did come down to a clash, then naturally we go with our members.
Even if the society had, you know, booked the room, you know, weeks, months in advance, and you were going to get.
Well, that's a different story. That's a different story. Given that there was already a contractual agreement between the function and the union. So, I mean, most, if not all, student societies that are affiliated to the GUU know how competitive it is for time slots during term, in terms of with other student societies. So, you know, forward planning is crucial to running of any student society or body. So,
what other kind of means of generating revenue do you kind of have planned in your manifesto?
So essentially through private function. Private functions, like I think we develop and invest in the facilities within the union to make it more of a live music venue that already is. We've already got the Hives world-class sound systems, we can definitely market that to external promoters to come in the off-season and bring extra revenue in.
Okay, and just briefly, your manifesto promises, a lot. It's one of the longest manifestos that we've seen. But what do you prioritise as a key principle or policy if you get elected as Honorary Secretary?
The key policy, the key principle?
What do you see as like the main foundation of your campaign?
I think the main foundation of the campaign is improving the union for its members, and the variety of forms in terms of the services we offer, also making it more inclusive. I still stand committed to the principles of the GUU News is firmly grounded on, and continuing that work to ensure that everyone feels included, be that working with various other societies to make that happen.
Robbie Miller, thank you very much.